Most of us probably know Artemis from pop culture, right? We picture this eternal tomboy, the athletic archer, sprinting through the woods, maybe hanging out with Percy Jackson, or leading a band of woodland nymphs. But, when you actually dive into the ancient texts, you quickly realize that this popular image, it barely scratches the surface. The real Artemis is a complex, deeply ancient deity who is defined by these startling, almost terrifying contradictions.
Just think about this for a second. Artemis is famously known as one of the 3 major virgin goddesses of Mount Olympus. She is fiercely protective of her maidenhood, and yet women all across ancient Greece prayed to her during labor. She was revered as a primary goddess of midwifery. So how on earth does a sworn virgin goddess become the ultimate patron of childbirth? It's a massive paradox. And to really wrap our heads around her, we basically have to throw ourselves right into the deep end of these mythological contradictions. Okay, let's dive into this, because this duality is quite literally baked into her DNA. On one hand, she's the ruthless hunter of the wild, dealing death from afar. But on the other hand, she is a chorotrophic deity. Now that's just a fancy academic term meaning she is the fierce, nurturing protector of animal cubs and human children. To understand how she manages to hold these completely opposing forces together, we really need to look back at the wildly chaotic timeline of her very origins. So, according to the myths, Leto was pregnant by Zeus, which, as you can probably guess, made Hera absolutely furious. Hera curses Leto, forbidding her from giving birth anywhere on solid land. So, Leto is frantically fleeing until she finally finds the floating, barren island of Delos, or Ortygia, depending on the text you're reading. And here is where Artemis's dual nature instantly kicks in. Artemis is born first, then, literally moments after taking her first breath, this newborn goddess immediately acts as a midwife. She helps her exhausted mother deliver her twin brother, Apollo. Right out of the gate, her very first act in existence is fiercely nurturing and life-bringing. Now, what's really interesting about this ancient title, Potnia Theron, is that her roots actually go much, much deeper than the classical Olympian family tree. Homer refers to Artemis as the mistress of animals. And this isn't just a poetic nickname, it's a legitimate ancient Bronze Age title. It connects her directly to older Minoan and Mycenaean religions. We're talking about archaic artwork showing a powerful, winged woman flanked by panthers, lions, or stags. She carries this raw, feral, pre-Greek energy that sets her completely apart from the more civilized gods of the pantheon. You can clearly see this untamed nature in her sacred symbols. Yes, for sure you have the famous golden bow, arrow, and quiver, but her dominion is also tied heavily to the sacred deer and the bear. In fact, over in Athens, young girls participated in the Arctea rituals where they actually dressed up as she-bears in her honor to mark their transition into womanhood. She carried torches, symbolizing her power over transitions. And her temples? They weren't typically built in prime downtown real estate. They were out on the edges of civilization, by springs, marshes, and wild, roaring rivers. Just listen to how the ancients sang of her in the Homeric hymns. I sing of Artemis, whose shafts are of gold, who cheers on the hounds, the pure maiden, shooter of stags. The tops of the high mountains tremble, and the tangled wood echoes awesomely with the outcry of beasts. I mean, you can just feel the enthusiastic, ancient grandeur in those words. But that trembling mountain, it isn't just trembling out of awe, it is trembling out of sheer, unadulterated terror. Because, well, here's the dark side of that duality. The protector of the young is also the bringer of swift and terrible retribution. Artemis is not forgiving. Crossing this nurturing goddess, even accidentally, brings immediate, deadly consequences. In her domain, there are absolutely no second chances, just the brutal, unflinching laws of nature. Take the doomed hunter Actaeon. Just imagine, you're out in the woods after a long day of hunting. You take a wrong turn, push through the brush, and stumble upon the goddess bathing naked in her sacred spring. It's a total accident. But nature doesn't care about your intent. Artemis splashes water on him, transforming him instantly into a stag. Pure panic sets in. Actaeon runs, but his own pack of 50 hunting hounds catches his scent. They track him, they run him down, and they tear him to shreds, never once realizing they are devouring their own beloved master. It's an absolutely chilling campfire ghost story about the inevitable dread of crossing the wild. And this brilliantly illustrates another profound contradiction in her nature. Artemis was widely worshipped as a goddess of healing, capable of bringing good health to women and children. And yet she was simultaneously feared as the bringer of sudden disease and death. She had the absolute power to give life and the absolute willingness to take it away, as Queen Niobe of Thebes learned the hard way. Niobe made a fatal, completely blasphemous mistake. She looked at Leto, the mother of Artemis and Apollo, and basically decided to treat having children like a scoreboard, bragging that she, Niobe, was a far superior mother. Why? Well, just look at the numbers. Leto only managed to have 2 children. Niobe had a staggering 14, 7 strong sons and 7 beautiful daughters. In the ancient Greek worldview, this is textbook hubris. It is an arrogant, foolish challenge to the divine.
Leto doesn't even have to lift a finger. She just asks her children to handle the insult. Apollo swiftly shoots down all 7 of the sons. But it's Artemis who systematically turns her golden bow on the girls. One by one, she shoots them down. Even as Niobe weeps and begs for just her final, youngest daughter to be spared, Artemis doesn't hesitate for a second. 7 arrows, 7 daughters dead. The cold, mechanical efficiency of her punishment is just staggering. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this ruthlessness wasn't just reserved for arrogant mortals. She strictly enforced her boundaries even on her own loyal inner circle. Take the tragedy of Callisto, one of Artemis's favorite hunting nymphs. She took a sacred vow of chastity to run with the goddess. But Zeus sees Callisto, disguises himself, in some versions actually disguising himself as Artemis, and forces himself upon her. When Artemis discovers Callisto is pregnant while they're bathing, she shows zero mercy. Zero understanding of the trickery. She transforms Callisto into a bear, casting her out into the very woods they used to hunt in, where Callisto is later nearly hunted down by her own son. It is honestly no wonder the other Olympians viewed her with a mixture of awe and, well, extreme caution. In Homer's Iliad, during a clash between the gods, Hera actually chides Artemis, saying, "Since it was against women that Zeus made thee a lion, and granted thee to slay whomsoever of them thou wilt." Even Hera, the queen of the gods, recognized Artemis as this terrifying lion-like force. She was a divine predator specifically unleashed upon women. So, the crucial point is, when you put all this together, you realize we have to stop looking at Artemis just as a superhero with a bow. She is the ultimate embodiment of raw, untamed nature. She is deeply nurturing, radiantly beautiful, and fiercely protective of the vulnerable. But she is also absolutely, unapologetically deadly if disrespected. She represents a natural world that gives life freely but owes you absolutely nothing. Which leaves us with a fascinating thought to wrap up this explainer. We really like to think we've conquered nature, don't we? We've built our concrete cities, air-conditioned our homes, and tamed the wild. But when a sudden storm rolls in or an unexpected illness strikes, we are instantly reminded of our fragility. So, are we really in control, or are we still at the mercy of the ancient, wild forces that Artemis represents? Think about that the next time you step off the beaten path.